Hey YouTube, long time no see. I'm in my car recording, so the quality is not going to be the best here. But it's kind of the only opportunity I have right now. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this great conjoining Star of Bethlehem that was supposed to have come to fruition on winter solstice, December 21st, 2020. And what they told us was this was the same phenomenon that happened at the birth of Jesus, that the wise men followed to find Jesus Christ. So it's supposed to be this great, shining, bright star in the sky. And it was supposed to be so spectacular and rare and crazy. I got really excited. December 21st rolls around. And, when I went outside, 5:15, I'm expecting to see the Star of Bethlehem. That's not exactly what everybody saw. I know it was really cool to see it through the telescopes and all that, but, the Star of Bethlehem, if you actually read the Bible, was such a weird and odd one great star that the wise men saw. And these wise men they charted stars. That's what they did. And for them to say, hey, this is very odd and this is a great star and it's something significant. And you got to remember, the wise men didn't just follow that and find Jesus in a manger. They followed it for a long time because Jesus was older by the time the wise men found him. So to me, this star would have to appear for I've heard that the estimate was about 2 years before the wise men actually found Jesus. So we know that that's not what we saw. What they were claiming was the rare Christmas star phenomenon of 2020. We know this. Just because, it wasn't... When you saw it, the two planets were still distinct two planets. They weren't one great star in the sky, and it didn't last that long. So my wondering is why was this so important to put out in the year 2020? Why was NASA pushing this when, honestly, if they hadn't said that this was a great conjoining and all that, I wouldn't even have noticed. When you looked up in the sky, it looked like a bright star next to a not so bright star. And not exactly right next to each other. I mean, they weren't together. They didn't make one bright star. And it only lasted really for about, I think they said about 5 days. And I'm actually looking at it right now. And, they're just two planets that came closer together. So number one, I really don't believe that was the Star of Bethlehem. But I'm wondering, why is mainstream media and NASA making a huge deal out of it and saying that this is the rare Christmas Star of Bethlehem? Especially with the year that we've had. This year is crazy, and you can actually see the beast of Revelation rear its ugly head this year more than you ever have. Now, I looked up what these two planets mean in mythology, Jupiter and Saturn, and I'm sure most of you guys, if you're watching this and are familiar with my channel, you probably understand Saturn symbology to a point. The Greeks and the Romans and other ancient civilizations worshipped Saturn as a deity. And the most ancient form of Saturn we find is the god El, which is the representation of Father Time, and also death, which is a correlation with, in my personal belief, Satan. So, if that's conjoining with Jupiter, the significance of Saturn and Jupiter in mythology is that Saturn and Jupiter are father and son. Saturn is said to be the father planet of Jupiter. And Jupiter being the largest in the solar system, the Greeks and Romans named these two planets after ruling over the law, ruling over agriculture, ruling over government, ruling over education. And that is the significance in their culture of the conjoining of these two planets, was the Father giving power to the Son to rule over basically everything economical. And I'm wondering if that has something to do with it. If that has something to do with the year and them calling this the Star of Bethlehem. And I'm wondering, folks, is this a false sign, meaning the coming of the Antichrist? Now, and that would depend on how much you believe they can control what's in the sky. And I'm not saying that they can, but I'm also not saying they can't. We know that they have technology, blue beam, all that. And the reports of people seeing odd things in the sky are at an all-time high right now. I myself have seen some weird stuff that I cannot explain, and that NASA shouldn't even be able to explain. It was just a few months ago. I know the different planets and the different seasons that they come out and you can see them. And what I saw should have been the planet Venus, which at that time of year rises in the east and is really, 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 really big and really, really bright. It's very hard to miss. I see it greatest about 1 o'clock in the morning around this time. And when I come out, I see what is supposed to be Venus, where it's supposed to be all the time. And it appears to be moving in the sky, moving in a very odd fashion. And to me, if that's supposed to be a planet in the sky, they're not supposed to be able to move like that. And it wasn't me just, moving my head and making it seem like it was moving. Like, this was moving in the sky. So that, to me, brings out a whole bunch of questions for myself, like, for this to happen. That is the question. And again, them making such a big deal and calling this the Star of Bethlehem is quite troubling to me. Because to me, biblically, that's not what the Star of Bethlehem would have been like. So again, very confusing. And I chalk it up to, this is another sign of the times, guys. Antichrist on the rise. We have lots of talk going on right now about vaccines, microchips, DARPA gel, you name it. People are questioning and people are seeing. Remember to keep your eyes open and look with your spirit and not your flesh.